The leadership role in ethics has two very, very important pieces. First of all is the piece that's easiest to talk about, but probably the hardest to pull off, and that is your role as a role model of ethical behavior. I mean, regardless of what your code of conduct says, regardless of what your policy and procedure says, your people, your team are going to take cues from you. And when they see you performing in a consistently ethical manner, and consistently is a word that we're going to say a couple of times today, when they see you performing in a consistently ethical manner, they're going to follow and model that behavior that you demonstrate. Now, a couple of things to avoid there and be very, very careful with. Your team members are going to look at when you modify on the fly, kind of override a policy, when you cut corners and, maybe kind of use some of your clout in the organization to get past things that they have to work through. They're going to look at that. I mean, and I'm not going to say that that's fair, but they're going to look at that as an unethical behavior piece. Now, the other role in leadership related to ethics, and this one's a really, really important one, is ethical congruence or consistency in enforcing ethical standards. And not only is this an important leadership dynamic, but it's also a very, very important dynamic related to overall organizational culture. Nobody wants to work in an environment where folks are treated disparately because of who they are or who they know or who they're connected with. They want to know, and this is a primary engagement factor, they want to know that the standards for me, the standards for them, are the same standards that everybody is held to. So your role in enforcing ethical policy means if you're going to fire employee or team member B because of something that they've done, that also means that when employee or team member A does the same behavior, you're going to fire them as well. That is extremely, extremely important to be congruent with those pieces. If you have an anti-harassment and an anti-hostile working environment policy, and boy, I certainly hope that you do, and if the consequences for violating that is termination of employment, and I certainly hope that that's the case as well, you can't hold one person's feet to the fire and then let somebody else slide for similar behavior just because maybe they're a high producer or maybe because they're connected more closely with the boss. Those standards have got to be managed congruently and fairly to everybody involved.